Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of We Dream of Cake. I'm your host, Glapion, and today I'm going to show you how I made this embroidered cake. For this project, we're going to start by removing the top crust off of the cake layers. I'm using a serrated knife, a bread knife, to just score some slices right into the side of the cake, right under that top lip. I'm using long strokes, and I'm going to continue around and go deeper in as I go, just so I could easily remove that top layer of crust. I have on a cut glove here just for safety precautions. Trimming off just a bit more to make it even. And we're going to do the same thing to the second layer. Next, I'm applying simple syrup to the two layers I just carved. Now for one of the 6-inch layers. And the second. Once again, I just have to cut off just a little bit more, trim it down so that I can have an even edge. More simple syrup on these layers. Putting down just a little bit of buttercream just to hold my cake layer in place so that it won't slide around. The buttercream that I'm using here has been thinned out just slightly. Thinning the buttercream makes it a little bit easier to apply the crumb coat. And as I've told you in earlier videos, the crumb coat is just used to hold the crumbs to the cake, just so that you don't have crummy frosting all over your cake. Clean up the edge just a little bit. Now let's pop that into the fridge. Now I'm going to repeat the process to crumb coat the top tier of the cake. And once again, after applying that thin layer of frosting, pop that into the fridge as well. Now I'm applying the final layer of buttercream frosting to the cake. This buttercream frosting that I am applying right now is the regular consistency that I would use. I didn't thin it out because, well, it's the final layer. Cleaning up my edges just a little bit. that little bit of excess frosting on the bottom. Removing it will help when applying fondant. So now for the top tier of the cake, adding the second and final coat of buttercream as well, repeating the process. Clean up the edges a bit, and then set it aside. I'm using cornstarch to help aid in rolling out my fondant. It just helps to keep it from sticking, and cornstarch is a little bit finer than powdered sugar, so it's a little bit easier to use to roll out. Also, it has no flavor, and it's also a drying agent to help that fondant crust over just slightly. Now then, let's go ahead and roll that fondant onto the bottom tier of the cake. Smooth out the sides. And then we're going to trim it down around the cake board. Now let's repeat that step with the top tier. Putting on the fondant, smoothing it out from the top down to the sides, all the way around. Now that we've got a smooth finish to the top and sides, let's go ahead and take this pizza cutter and just trim it off. Trim off the excess fondant. Just put a cut all the way around, stretch it out, and pull it right over the top. Here I'm using bubble tea straws as a support system for the cake. The bubble tea straws will support the top tier of the cake so that it won't crush the bottom tier. The bubble tea straws are rather long, so let's just trim off the tops, push the rest of the straw down, and let's go ahead and put that top tier on. Make sure you have it centered so your cake is aesthetically nice. So now I'm going to use this tool to trace on some of my design. I'm using a veining tool, a paintbrush, and some lemon juice. So with the veining tool, I'm just freehanding, drawing it on. It works sort of like a pen or a knife. It gives a little etching into the fondant. This is just to give me a guide, so when I start piping on my buttercream, I'll have a guide and know just where I want to place it. Continue on by etching or carving in my design on the sides. So now I'm just piping in the buttercream that I'm using just along those lines that I drew out my guide. With each of these designs that I drew onto the cake, I'm piping the buttercream starting from the outside, working my way in. So when I start pulling the frosting with the paintbrush, Pulling it from the outside in allows a better visual effect. You'll see what I mean in a minute, because we're also going to outline the inner lines and then start to pull it. So I'm just dipping the paintbrush into the lemon juice and just pulling the frosting inward. Pulling that frosting inward thins out the line, the outer line, the outer edge of the line, and it also pulls the frosting into the center of the design, giving it that look, that embroidered look, the look that I'm trying to achieve here. It's sort of like lace, but then again we say embroidered because the edges are so bold. So I'm just going to work my way all around the cake, piping in buttercream everywhere I put the lines, and then pulling the frosting with the paintbrush. And yes, I'm removing that bottom portion of fondant. I decided not to have it go to the edge. So for my border, I'm just using a small star tip and piping in some rosettes. So, there you have it, my embroidered cake. I'm Aaron Glapion for We Dream of Cake.